Hi everyone, and welcome to this BIMCO 15+15 webinar on how to simplify safety management procedures. My name is Jacob Larsen, and I'm Head of Maritime Safety and Security here at BIMCO. To give us his take on how to write simple and effective SMS procedures, we have invited Terje Løvoy. Terje spent 27 years in aviation, both as a pilot and in management positions ashore. He worked for SAS and Japan Airlines. He was a procedure designer, a Boeing evaluator, and made methods for writing lean text. Since 2009, Terje worked extensively with shipping, and he has researched and analyzed more than 63 safety management systems. So let's get started. Terje, over to you.
Thank you, Jacob. Most safety management systems have become too complex, too big, and lost sight of the end user, the seafarer. A complex safety management system is not just a problem, it is also a potential for improvement. But the better we understand a problem that we are trying to solve, the more likely we are to find a good solution. It's therefore worthwhile spending some time trying to understand why safety management systems becomes overly complex. And over a 10-year period, our Løvoy team analyzed 63 safety management systems. Most companies wanted to simplify their SMS, but many believed it was impossible to make a SMS both user-friendly and in compliance with audit standards. Many were also concerned that they couldn't spare the resources needed to rewrite their SMS. In this presentation, we are going to follow 23 companies that use their own people to simplify their SMS. We are going to look at the two typical questions. One, can a SMS be both user-friendly and in compliance with audit standards? And question number two, will simplifying a SMS require more resources than it saves? First, let's take a deeper look at the problem. Contrary to what many believed, the problem is not too much information in the SMS. The problem is the way we present the information. And armed with this knowledge, we developed what has become known in the shipping industry as the Løvoy method. It allows shipping companies to simplify and improve their SMS without losing facts, and to do this using their own people. It focuses on writing style, layout, and structure. And I'll give you just a few examples of each, starting with writing style. We introduced what we called text washing. And if you look up at the screen on the left column here, we see 20 words. And after we wash out what we call filler words, we reduce it to 5 words without losing any facts. After washing, the text is more concise. Most safety management systems are using a lot of difficult words that even native English speakers aren't used to seeing. And when possible, we are replacing these words with more everyday words. But we don't want to dumb the SMS down, so we are going to continue to use standard marine technical words such as enclosed space and forecastle. Another problem is that safety management systems uses a lot of passive sentences, and we change these to active sentences because we read the active sentences faster, we understand them better, and we remember them longer. One thing we need to be careful about is not to oversimplify. We don't want to lose all the good stuff in the old SMS or company experience. And to make sure we don't oversimplify, we need a method. And that was one of the objectives with the method, to arm the writers with a tool that allows them to remove the filler words, the double talk, the unnecessary complexity, but keeping the facts, the muscles, the company experience. We also worked on layout, and we designed a Word template that allows anyone who can use Microsoft Word to convert the SMS into a rich graphic layout, whether you are publishing paper or electronic formats. We based it on NASA studies, and then we tested it for years on many of the ships that we worked with. One of the biggest problems or potential for improvements we found is what we call spaghetti SMS structure. It causes a lot of problems. Let me give you an example. One of the problems is excessive cross-referencing. And one of the reasons for the spaghetti structure is that old SMSs often believe we have to separate guidance from mandatory actions. But we should really try to go in the footsteps of the seafarers. And to do that, procedures should include both mandatory actions and guidance in one workflow. So how do we see what is guidance and what is mandatory? The words we use will clarify this. These were just a few examples. Let's move on to see the results from some of the companies we followed. I know that some of you that are listening have done this, and if I don't show your company, please don't get upset. We just picked some of the last ones. There are more case studies available on the Loveway website. One of the companies was OSM Ship Management, and to quote them, in January 2023, that is, our new SMS passed the first TMSA audit by Shell with a very good result. German bulk carrier Oldendorf testing their new SMS with their seafarers and collecting feedback from their seafarers in 2021. I'll let you read for yourself. Offshore supply company A this week, feedback from their seafarers. We have been waiting for this for a long time. Feedback from the auditors. This was our first audit where a crew could locate all procedures immediately. And they continued to say the writing style was very easy to understand and there were no misunderstandings among the crew. Westfalassen, chemical tankers and dry bulk. Improved compliance, improved vetting results. No findings or observations related to bridge procedures. Bridge procedures was the first part of the SMS they simplified. And then very interesting from the administration team in Westfalassen, they were saying that it's easier to adapt to new standards such as SIRE 2.0 with a new and improved SMS. And this is one of the things we see, that a well-structured SMS is not just easier to use, it is also easier to produce and update. But we got to get out of the firefighting mode, and to do that, it's a little bit like slow down to hurry up if you're going to invest in simplifying and improving your SMS. To summarize, if you use the method we have intended, you will not remove facts. And since you don't remove facts, you're going to make it easier for the inexperienced and new crew members. It's better for audits because it's easier to see if something is missing when things are clear, both for you and the auditor. But most importantly, it improves safety because if something is user-friendly, or people will use it more with a reduced risk of mistakes. To conclude our first question, can a SMS be both user-friendly and in compliance? We found that the answer is clearly yes. Let's move on to the second question. Will simplifying a SMS require more resources than it saves. First, we need to decide who we are going to use as writers. Should we use a very skilled technical writer who's very good in writing and very good in English, but doesn't have all the in-depth knowledge that a seafarer has? Or should we use a subject matter expert, which is a seafarer or someone with a current seafaring background, a master, a chief officer, a chief engineer? We tested both options to answer this question, and we did it for several years with many different companies in different parts of the world. And we always came with the same conclusion. True simplicity comes from thorough understanding. People without good understanding often insist on unnecessary complexity. Simplicity without understanding is difficult. So it was clear to us that it was better to take seafarers who knows the matter very well and help them learn how to write procedures than to try to get technical writers to become seafarers. But for this to work, we had to add something to our method. And we made our method what's called a controlled language. It is English, but with strict and simple rules. We made a plain language dictionary available to the public on the website, and we made a description of this controlled language with some very strict but simple rules. Just as an example, we said that every step procedure needs to start with a verb. This allows you to use your own people to rewrite the SMS. And then we developed a training program, and what we saw was that with a little bit of training and some support afterwards, seafarers from all parts of the world, also the parts where most seafarers are coming from today, where English is not the native language, we saw that they were able to wash the text and to produce high quality procedures. So using a subject matter expert was a more preferred option. The next question we also need to answer to look at this resource question is, who should we use? I'm sorry, how many writers should we use? Should we use one person writing full time? Or should we use our existing staff and just spread it over a lot of people? Basically, should we use several people to rewrite on top of, in addition to their daily tasks? And again, we tested both. We found that both worked, but option 2 had a higher risk of people either not delivering or the project taking too long time. What we saw was option 1, using one person full-time, was clearly the best option, not just for efficiency, but also for quality. As an example, if a shipping company took one master and gave that master 3 months, it was possible to redo the entire bridge procedures. So what we saw was using one writer full-time was fast, the risk was low, they delivered, and the quality was high. Now, the writer need to have support, and especially when it comes to planning the structure of the SMS. Let me explain a little bit more what I mean by that. With structure, I mean how we organize the SMS to make sure that we capture all the information from our old SMS and from the various industry guidance documents and standards. And there's a lot of them, and they are very good and they're crucial to use the guidance documents from the industry, but each of them have their own structure. And then we also, in some cases, need to fit into an overall ISO structure. So if we're going to make it user-friendly, we need to structure it in the footsteps of the seafarer. That means it's process-oriented. And that part we saw was the most important success criteria when you are simplifying an SMS. We estimate that 80% of the success criteria is to get the structure right. Text washing is also very, very important, but it only counts for about 20%. But you need that part too. The good news is that text washing can be based on methodology, meaning that it's easy to learn it. But the one-time restructuring is based more on experience, and you need to customize it to each company, to the type of ships they have and the type of cargo they carry. Regardless of what method you're using, when you're done, say, for example, you have this one master who's doing the bridge procedure, you need to bring it back to the company and you have to do a very thorough quality assurance to make sure that you are covering everything. And this is when you bring it back to the traditional team that maintains your SMS and that's going to continue to maintain it, and that also will improve the changes. And we also recommend testing on a few ships before we implement the new procedures. To conclude on question number 2, will simplifying a SMS require more resources than it saves? If you do it right, you will save time. The time frame depends on how efficiently you do it. And we clearly see that using a few people, for example, have one master rewrite the bridge procedure, and they can do it in as little as 3 months full time, have a chief engineer do the engine, and so forth. So this brings us to the end of my presentation. And before I hand it over to you again, Jacob, to facilitate questions, this was just a light touch. We have more details and articles on our website and case studies from some of the other companies that I didn't have the opportunity to share now. We will also publish a full text article of this presentation in a day or two. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to you, Jacob.